I'll share a presentation with you, which will help us understand this concept better. Okay, so it's more of a recap of what we learned yesterday. Are you able to see the screen which I'm sharing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So transpiration is nothing but we have these small openings on the underside of leaves which are called as stomata. So that's on the underside of the leaves. So all the water which is absorbed by the roots travels through the plant and ultimately it escapes the leaves in the form of water vapor. So that's the definition. The first type of transpiration that we learnt about yesterday was stomatal. So these are nothing but through the epidermis of the leaf. It's on the epidermis of the green shoot as well as leaves, and the opening and closing of stomata are controlled by what we call as the guard cells, and maximum loss of water in the form of water vapor stomata. So that accounts for almost 80 to 90% of the water loss. Clear? Then lenticular transpiration, the loss of water in the form of water vapor taking place through the lenticels, which is present in the woody stem and fruits, is called as lenticular transpiration, and it accounts for very less amount, which is almost 1 to 5%. And then comes cuticular transpiration. So cuticle is the word we were talking about. That's the covering of the leaves, especially found in desert plants. This kind of transpiration is called as the cuticular transpiration. Now we need to quickly compare what the differences between transpiration and evaporation are. So the first difference is transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor from aerial parts, whereas evaporation can be from any body surface. It is a vital and partly physical process which is governed by both internal and external factors. So we are talking of transpiration. So later in the chapter, we'll be studying the different internal and external factors, whereas evaporation is simply controlled by the temperature and humidity of the atmosphere. Okay, so where evaporation is strongly governed by the environmental characteristics, the transpiration process is related both to the internal as well as the external characteristics. Moving on to stomata and lenticels, the differences. These are located on the lower surface of dicot leaves, both upper and lower surface of monocot leaves. So this is something you need to know. Okay, so when we are saying that they are more on the lower surface, then we are mostly referring to dicot leaves. They lose water vapor, and this process is called as stomatal transpiration. Whereas when they lose water from the stem of woody plants, then the process is called as lenticular. And then cuticular, we already know it's through the cuticle, whereas lenticular is through the lenticels on the stem. Now, this was the experiment we spoke about yesterday. So this is what I was talking. Can you see the arrow that I'm moving?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see that it is tied at the base of the plant here. This spot is covered so that there is no water escaping in the form of water vapor from this portion, but all the water vapor which has condensed inside the bell jar is through the water vapor which is escaping the leaves. Clear? Okay, now a few questions that can be asked in your exam are as follows. Which is the process? Transpiration, water, then they may ask you to define the process. Then why is the plastic sheet there? So it is so that the mud of the pot doesn't come out, the moisture from the mud doesn't come out and affect the result. And one way that it is beneficial to the plant is it helps in the ascent of sap. Now, while we were studying absorption by roots, we've studied about this term, ascent of sap. And a similar apparatus is set up without the potted plant. So I remember asking this question to Narayan yesterday. Yes, this is the control. Fine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So that was what we have briefly summarized from what we studied yesterday. Now we'll move ahead today and let me just share a document with you. Okay, so today we'll be studying more about transpiration through experiments. So we'll be learning how to measure transpiration. Okay, are you all following me, children? Okay, are you all able to see the screen that I'm sharing? Measurement of transpiration. Okay. Now, children, there are a number of methods which are used for measuring transpiration, and some of these are weighing method, and we have also the potometer method. Okay, now we'll be learning what the potometer is, but before that, let's understand the weighing method. Now, in the weighing method, we take a very small, lightweight potted plant, and we need to weigh the plant before, at the end of a certain period of time. Okay, the soil surface and the pot should be fully covered to prevent evaporation from the surfaces other than plants. So this is always something that we need to take care. Are you able to hear me, children?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the loss in weight by the plant during the time is due to the loss of transpiration. So what do we do is first we weigh a potted plant, okay, and after some time we weigh it again. We find that there is loss in the weight of the plant. So what is this loss? This is loss of the water weight. Okay, so this is simply what we are talking about. This is how the experimental setup looks. Okay, now you see that the leaves have to be intact. Okay, and we also have the roots over here along with the water. So when you measure, you can also measure the volume of the water which is taken in, or the water which is lost. Is this clear? Okay, let's move on quickly to the next one. Now, there was a similar experiment that we did in the previous chapter, right? How many of y'all remember this, seeing this experiment in the previous chapter? Yes?
I do.
In absorption by roots, you were supposed to take the assessment yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You remember this? Fine. Now, who will tell me what's the difference between what you see in this experiment here and the experiment that you saw in absorption by roots?
Roots are there.
Exactly. So in absorption by roots, the roots were intact, but in this particular experiment, you see that the roots have been cut off. Okay, and what we have done is we have put some oil on the surface. The role of the oil is to prevent the loss of water by evaporation. Fine. Now again, any difference in weight will indicate the loss of water by the shoot due to the transpiration. And since there are no roots to actively absorb the water loss will be much less. Okay, because the water is entering the stem directly. There is no surface area, additional surface area. So the function of the roots is absent here. Is this experiment clear? Is it
Yes.
difficult to understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Mariam, is that you? Have you understood the experiment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now let's go on to the potometer method. Now, potometer is nothing but it is a device which measures the rate of water intake by a plant. Okay, now this water intake is equal to the water lost through transpiration. Please underline this in your books. So you can get a question as to what is a potometer. So it is simply a device which measures the rate of water intake by the plant. And what is this water intake equal to, children?
The
Loss
rate of loss of
Transpiration.
water.
Yes, it is
The
equal to
loss
the
of water.
water which is lost through transpiration.
Mhm.
Okay, and now there are different types of photometers. One of we are going to study the Genong's photometer in detail. We also have the farmer's photometer. These help to measure the rate of water intake by a plant. Now, Darwin's photometer helps to demonstrate the suction force which is created due to transpiration. So there are different photometers given in your book here and what they are specifically used for. So you can just read that. Whereas we'll be studying Genong's photometer in detail. You see the image here? This is the Genong's photometer. This is an important diagram. You may be asked to identify or to answer questions based on this diagram. And this is how a Genong's photometer looks. So when this diagram is given to you and if you're asked to identify that, do not give the answer photometer, but you need to say it's Genong's photometer. Clear? Rishabh, can you show me your true face?
Okay.
Okay. Fine. It's good that you've got rid of that image because I feel like smiling every time I look at it. Okay.
Okay.
So now what you do in the Genong's photometer is you take in some colored water. So before that, let's understand first you need to take a twig of a suitable plant. So which plant are we taking here? The colis. Okay, it is cut with a sharp knife and it is fixed in an apparatus which is shown as here. Now this apparatus is filled with water. Now who's making this whistling sound?
Me
Um,
at my house, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, just put yourself on mute, children. So when you have some colored water filled in here, now as the water is transpired from the plant, the water will keep rising. Can you see this? Okay.
yes.
And you also see an air bubble here. Now the air bubble has a specific role to play. Okay, because there is no air space present, an air bubble is purposely introduced into the horizontal graduated capillary tube. So this is the capillary tube, okay, where this air bubble is introduced. Okay, now as the water moves, the air bubble will also move. Now this is now how is this introduced? The air bubble is introduced by lifting the capillary tube above the colored water so that the air can be sucked in due to suction pull. And then so you pick up the capillary tube and quickly put it back. So that's how you help the air bubble to get inserted. As the water is lost, there's a suction force which is set up, which pulls the water from the beaker, and along with the water, the bubble in the capillary tube will also move along. Okay. Now the readings on the capillary tube will give you the volume of the water lost. So can you see this reading here? Okay, so that will give the volume of the water which is lost during the experiment. Now what is the use of this air bubble? Can someone tell me what the use of this air bubble is?
Suction force, I guess.
What's the use of the air bubble?
Suction force,
Can
I
you
guess.
see this? It's written here, the air bubble can be brought back to its original position by releasing some more water from the reservoir into the capillary tube. Why would this be required? Air bubble coming back to its original position.
Suction force.
Other than the suction force,
maybe
Atharva.
to get the hello ma'am.
What is it?
Okay, so the air bubble first moved. Okay, you got a reading. Why would you need the air bubble to go back?
Oh, oh God.
To do it again.
Exactly. Who
reset,
was
yeah.
that? Give me your name.
Me, Aditya.
Aditya. Excellent. You would want the air bubble to go back so that you can repeat the process, isn't it? So you can repeat this experiment. Okay. You can take the reading once again. Now, potometers do not measure the water lost during transpiration, but it measures the water uptake by the current chute. Some of the water is used by the cells to carry out other processes, for example, manufacture of photosynthesis. Right? Now, the potometer should be made completely watertight and the twig should be cut obliquely. So, these are the precautions that you need to take before you set the experiment up. You all can mark it in your book and put numbers. So number 1, it should be made completely watertight, and number 2, the twig should be cut obliquely and under the water to avoid suction of air bubble into the twig, which will stop the absorption of water into the xylem. So if the air enters the xylem, then what is going to happen? There will be lesser movement of water. It will find there will be a difficulty. Now, limitation in the use of potometer. Introducing the air bubble is not very easy. The twig may not remain fully alive for a long time, and any changes in the outside air temperature may affect the position of the air bubble in the capillary tube. Can someone tell me what will happen if we put this experimental setup in the hot sun?
Ma'am, the water will
Evaporate.
Okay, and transpiration will become faster.
Plant will die quicker.
Okay, fine. So you are understanding. Now let's come to the mechanism of stomatal transpiration. Does anyone have any questions there? The potometer method?
no.
Okay, so what is the potometer used for? Shravani? Is Shravani there? Amatullah, can you tell me what the potometer is used for?
Potometer, I don't know. Just 1 minute. I know, 1 minute.
Sid, are you there? Sid? Okay, who can answer that for me?
To measure transpiration, I guess.
Exactly. A potometer is a device which measures the rate of water intake by the plant, which is equal to the water lost during transpiration. So you're going to write what's given in your book, the first few lines, okay, what we have already marked. Now let's come to mechanism of stomatal transpiration. Now what are stomata? Stomata are small pores which are present on the lower epidermis. Okay. Now let us first read and then I'll explain. So please read while I'm reading. Read along with me. You'll have your textbook and you can see what I'm reading on the screen. Stomata are minute openings in the epidermal layer of leaves. A stoma is surrounded by 2 bean-shaped guard cells. Okay. During the daytime, the stomata are widely open, primarily for the intake of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. We all know this. The number of stomata may range from 1,000 to 10,000 per centimeter square. In stomatal transpiration, the water vapor escapes through the stomata of the leaf, and the water, after absorption by the roots from the soil, rises up through the stem and reaches the tissues of the leaves through the veins. Are we understanding? So
Yes.
the water after absorption is traveling up the roots and up the stem till it reaches the leaves through the veins. Now what happens here? Listen carefully. There are a large number of spongy mesophyll cells in the leaves. Can you see the spongy mesophyll cells in the diagram here?
Yes.
Yes.
Now these spongy mesophyll cells, they have their surfaces exposed to the intercellular spaces. Can you see this huge space here? So there are many intercellular spaces between the cells in the spongy mesophyll layer. Okay. Now what happens is these surfaces of the cells, they give out some of the water vapor as a thin film. and this water evaporates and the water vapor formed saturates the air in the intercellular spaces. So the water which is given out, what is it doing? It is saturating the space, this intracellular space. Now, obviously, if the water vapor is saturating this place, that means the concentration of water vapor is more over there, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. And what
Yes,
is the rule
ma'am.
of diffusion? What happens in diffusion?
Higher concentration.
From higher
Concentration.
concentration to lower concentration.
Exactly. So the molecules will move from higher
Movement.
concentration to lower concentration. So automatically the water vapor which has saturated the intercellular spaces, it starts moving out through the stomatal pores towards the lower concentration. So this entire process, yes, so this happens, the vapor diffuses into the other connecting intercellular spaces, and it keeps going from one intercellular space to another intercellular space where the concentration is less. So this entire movement of water vapor from the surface of the cell till the outside, that is till it reaches the atmosphere, is a result of diffusion. So if you're asked a question that which process is involved in the movement of the stomata, the movement of the water vapor through the stomatal pores to the into the atmosphere. So what is the answer? You will say diffusion. The molecules of the water vapor, like any other gas, it moves from higher concentration to its region of lower concentration. Okay, so this is how it takes place. So there are a lot of intercellular spaces in the leaf. Okay, are you all with me, children? Aditya?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the water vapor keeps getting diffused till it finally reaches outside into the atmosphere, and this is how it is released. Now, children, there is more transpiration occurring from the under surface of a dicot leaf. So this is the next thing that we are going to study. I'll be, what we just studied now was the mechanism of stomatal transpiration. What was that?
Mechanism of
Stomatal transpiration.
Stomatal transpiration. Okay. So which layer in the leaves gives out a thin film of water vapor?
It saturates the
Yes. Which cells are we talking about here?
stomatal pores. What?
So tell me the name, the specific cell.
Mesophil.
The
Mesophil.
Purkinje mesophil cells. Okay. Which space in the leaf is getting saturated with water vapor?
Sorry, what?
Which space in the cell?
Intercellular
Sorry, in the
spaces.
leaf? Yes.
Yeah. What? I don't know what's happening.
Yes, you were right. Atharva,
Yes.
which place in the, which area or which region in the leaves gets saturated with the water?
The intercellular spaces.
Okay, and what happens there on? Melissa?
Oh,
Is Akshat there? Akshat?
Hello?
Yes, Akshat.
Yes, ma'am.
Where does the water vapor move after the intercellular spaces, which is first, from the space where it's saturated?
Ma'am, it moves through this process. I mean, it moves out of the leaf or to the paper.
Where's the paper? Are we talking about the paper yet? We're still here.
Then does it try to move out of the leaf?
Yes, the water vapor, it eventually moves out of the leaf through the stomatal pore, through the stoma. Can you see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Can you see this
Yes.
arrow?
yes.
Okay. So initially the water is moving by osmosis. However, later the process of diffusion comes into the picture when the water vapor moves in the form of when the water moves in the form of water vapor outside the stomatal pores, okay, into the atmosphere. Now let us see this experiment. More transpiration occurs from the undersurface of a dicot leaf. Now why are we saying dicot leaf? Because we take a dicot leaf because, yes, tell me, Siley.
Because they have those pores on the underside
Undersurface.
and they have gravitational force.
No, we don't talk about gravity here, Atharva. We talk about
Sorry, I just got it.
the undersurface of the dicot leaf. In a monocot leaf, you find stomatal pores on the upper as well as the lower surface.
Upper surface.
Okay, so we take a dicot leaf in this case, and what do? We clip a cobalt chloride paper on the upper surface of the leaf as well as the lower surface of the leaf. Can you see this experimental setup, children? Show me a thumbs up if you can see it.
Yes.
Yes, Atharva, Aditya, Shrishti.
Yes.
Okay, so you can see this setup here. Now what the observation is, the cobalt chloride paper turns pink on the lower surface of the... Can you hear me? Okay, I just went off for some time.
Yes, ma'am.
That. Okay, so you will see that the lower surface of the leaf where the cobalt chloride paper is, it will turn pink color. We have why is the cobalt chloride turning pink, paper turning pink from blue?
Because water.
Yeah, we have studied
Water.
previously that cobalt chloride paper is an indicator for moisture. Okay, so
Yes, ma'am.
when it is dry, it is blue in color, but when it is wet, that is when there's moisture entering the cobalt chloride paper, it turns pink, and this color change indicates that moisture is there, it is present. Now, one precaution that you need to take is the cobalt chloride paper should be intact. I mean, it should be touching the surface of the leaf. It should be touching the lower surface of the leaf very well. If it is not touching the lower surface of the leaf, then the moisture will not enter the cobalt chloride paper, and hence you will not get the result for this experiment. Is this experiment clear, children?
Yep.
Yes.
It's not at all difficult. Okay. Now we have already studied the one. Are you all able to still see the screen?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Are you able to see it now?
Yep.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about. The first result is like this. So this is how the leaf, the cobalt chloride paper looks, pink. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And what was the precaution that I told you that you need to take?
Ma'am, the cobalt chloride paper should be intact with the leaf.
Touching with the
Should be
leaf.
touching the
Upper side.
undersurface of the leaf, the lower surface. Then tell me, the upper surface of the leaf where the cobalt chloride paper is clipped, will it look pink or blue?
Blue, it will remain blue.
Blue. Okay, it will
The
turn
dicot.
pink eventually. Okay, it will turn pink eventually, but the lower surface will turn more quickly. Okay, so this was the last experiment that I wanted to share with you today. Okay, any questions so far from this chapter?
Nope.
Ma'am.